Hi there. Welcome to Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. My name is Hetty the Entrepreneur, and welcome to yet another information-packed episode. Today we've got a fantastic entrepreneur who's multifaceted. I'm sure you're going to love her, and we're going to delve into a deeper conversation with her. But before we do so, as always, I'm not flying this plane on my own. I do have my co-pilot with me. Papa Biz, how are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation here with what I've come to understand. I'll put it as a sports entrepreneur. So this is going to be something different, which we'll be able to engage with and learn more from.
Absolutely. Tiffany Miguel is really multifaceted. Not only is she within the sporting fraternity, and we'll go a little bit deeper into that, but then she's also been into the beauty pageant space. She's an award-winning entrepreneur. So I'm really looking forward to you getting to know her a little bit better. Tiffany, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Hetty.
It's
Nice one.
really, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. You're quite multifaceted, which I find to be very fascinating. But before we get into that, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you grew up, just so that we can get to know you better?
I'm Tiffany Miguel. I am 37 years old. I am the director and founder of Splash Aquademy Swimming School, Splash Soldiers Instructor Agency, and the Amore Foundation. I am also the 2023 winner of the Director's Choice Award for Supreme Queen Global Earth Africa.
Sure.
And I was a top 5 contestant in my year. And on top of that, I am a wife and mom of 3.
Okay.
And it's very weird. No one ever asked me where I come from. So actually, you'll be the first to know. I grew up in Innerdale.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. No one's ever asked, they ask where you are now and who you are, but no one ever asked me, where do you come from? So I actually grew up in Innerdale, which is, for those who don't know, it's a township in the south of Johannesburg. And we then moved after that to Meadle, but I've always stayed in the south of Johannesburg.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's amazing. I've got a good friend actually that comes from Innerdale. How was it like growing up in that area?
Amazing. So we could play in the streets until like midnight because everyone knows everyone's child and everyone looks after everyone's child. There's a real sense of Ubuntu there. We all had pets, we had yards. It was really one of the more fortunate townships in that we had access to swimming pools, so I knew how to swim. We had farms that were close by, so we would go into the sugarcane fields and take sugar canes and eat raw sugarcane, catch crabs on our holidays. It was a very earthy childhood.
Yes. That's amazing.
Just, did you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I have 29 siblings. No. It feels like that.
My eyes popped.
I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters, but my mom does, as I call it, take in strays. So it is 29 if you count it, but we've never all lived in the same house at the same time. So she's always taking in, family friends who fall on hard times, taking in their kids, and then once they're back on their feet, the kids go back to their parents. So throughout my life, I've had 29, but not all at once.
And what was that like for you growing up in a big family where you guys were 4 and then obviously with everybody else, just in terms of defining yourself? I'd find that different people that I'd speak with, when they're in a big family, they'd find, how do I separate myself from everybody else? Because I'm also a unique person.
I think that's what made me loud, because you have to fight for space. When you are in a loud family, you're always fighting to be heard. So I'm a very loud person because of that. But I've also learned to share because of it, because you never had anything that was, this is your toy and only yours. No. Rollerblades you wore one at a time, because one was yours, the other one was for someone else, So I've learned to share and collaborate because that's how I had to grow up. And I think that that's what's made me so deep into the philanthropy space. It's because my mom was always giving, and so we've never had entitlement of mine. It's always been community based.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think that probably speaks to the type of person that you've grown up to be. Tell me something, because you mentioned swimming early on in your childhood. Is that where the love of swimming came from, and then building a business in that line?
No, actually, what happened was I had a bit of a discipline problem when I was younger, and my parents put myself and my older brother in the Naval Cadet Corps. And when I was in the Navy, you got to choose sort of what you specialize in, because we have these competitions, right? So you could do rowing, you could do swimming, you could do knot tying, you could do artillery guns, and I chose swimming because, it sounded like the fun thing to do.
Yes.
And through the drills we did in the Navy, that's where my love of swimming came. But it was intense. Let me tell you, they had this one drill where they would put two lines across the Vaal River. I was at TS Bounty, which is on the Vaal Dam.
Okay.
So they would put two ropes across it, more than just 100 meters apart, not very far apart. And you had to swim in the current, and your feet couldn't touch the end and your hands couldn't touch the end.
Goodness.
So for an hour you had to swim and stay in the same place and pace yourself with the current to not move back or forward.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just one of the things we used to do. So the swimming, it made me a great endurance swimmer. So to this day, I can go swim a mid-mar without any issues, because endurance was the main thing. They weren't so focused on speed. It was endurance, which I suppose if your ship sinks in a war, you need to know how to swim endurantly. You can't get fast. Let's get there. It's safe.
Yes.
Sure, and I was thinking, I mean, I can swim, and I tell people that I can't do that.
No, let me tell you another one. They put the swimming pool there was a 6-meter pool in the deep end, and they would put a 15 kg medicine ball in the deep end.
Goodness.
And you would have to swim a medley. So the medley is butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle. On your last one, you would have to pick up the medicine ball, so dive 6 meters, pick up this 15 kg ball, put it on your chest, and then rescue it to the end. And that's done as a race. And I was 8 years old.
Goodness, doing that.
Yes. So the training we had was quite intense. And I think, going through something like that, it either makes you love the water or hate it. But I am a very competitive person. So I loved it. I was like, I've got to be the best swimmer in the world. And then I am.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Tell us a little bit more about your schooling. Did you continue with your schooling, or did you go straight into entrepreneurship?
So when I actually have been an entrepreneur since I was 16.
Oh, really?
Yes. When I was in school, I needed money. There was the debutante's ball, and then there's your matric dance. There's all these things you need. And my mom was like, I'm not giving you allowance. You can find a way to make. Up to 16, I got allowance.
Okay.
From 16, she said, you can go get a job now, because it's legal to get a job. And she cut off my allowance. I didn't quit the job. So I started selling. I actually hired my housekeeper part-time. I would go after school and go buy fat cake dough, bread dough.
Oh, lovely.
And I would leave it in my bag while I was doing hockey practice so it could raise.
Yes.
Then I would go home, give her the dough. She would make fat cake and mince. And in the morning, I would take this little cooler bag of fat cake and mince and sell it at break time. And that's how I made my money. And then I grew that into, then we made brownies and knickknacks. And I used to coin it in high school.
That's amazing.
So I've always been an entrepreneur. After school, I did go to university. I went to Wits and I was studying acting. I was doing a BA dramatic art. I was going to be an actress, a theatre actress. I then did develop stage fright.
Really?
Yeah, I had a traumatic experience which led to me developing stage fright. So I moved to George for 2 years because I wanted to live at the beach. We moved to George for 2 years. While I was there, I did a radio show because that was a way of getting back out there without people seeing you, you know. So I had my own radio break show. It was called The Crazy Break Lunch Show with Christo G and Tiffany.
Lovely.
And then when I moved back, while I was there as well, I also worked as a casual chef in Fan Court. It's a 5-star hotel.
Yes, it is.
So I worked
Very
at Fan
fancy.
Court. It is. And their food is delicious. That was all me, guys. So when I moved back, I needed to find something to do now because now I'm not studying and I don't know. I'm lost. And I've always been an entrepreneurial person. So I started a wedding planning and catering company.
Okay.
Used the skills I had from being a chef because I worked in the banqueting kitchen.
Yeah.
So used those skills that I had and started a wedding planning company. And that went really great for a while. It was called Flavored by Jasmine.
Were you not afraid to start that?
The worst thing that can happen is you fail. And I've never been afraid of failure.
Okay.
My whole life I failed, but I always fail upwards. You fail, you learn something, you fail forward, you know? So I think if you are a person who is afraid of failure, entrepreneurship is not for you.
100%.
If you even have in your vocabulary the word failure, entrepreneurship is not for you, because it's not failure, it's trying. What have I tried today? Okay, I tried this, it didn't work, let me try something else. And I think I don't know where I got that from, but both my parents have always been entrepreneurs as well.
Okay.
So my dad had his own company driving trucks. And then my mom, even though she worked for another company, she started her own foundation, which is very much an entrepreneur-based thing, having to bring in sponsors and that.
Okay.
And I think seeing that growing up is what made me an entrepreneur. And I remember there was this poignant moment in my life. My dad phones me one day and he says, are you good at sales? Random question. Yeah, I'm good. He says, get dressed, I'm coming to pick you up. I'm like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
So I put on my heels and the suit, power suit. I have no idea what's happening, but he said, get dressed. He comes, he fetches me. His bakkie is loaded with fudge and coconut ice.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
His truck had broken down and he needed to make the bond payment that month.
Oh.
So we drove to petrol stations and to liquor stores and to your Checkers and your Pick and Pays and sold them these tubs of fudge.
Really?
And that's how we made the bond that month.
Sure.
And I think that made me so much of a stronger entrepreneur than anything else, because there were a lot of no's. No, we have to go through head office. And he turned those no's right back into a yes. Yeah, you have to go through head office for big sales, but this is something small. Are you going to phone head office to buy a Coke? Come on, man. You know, and that was like an on-the-day training of how to be a hustler.
Yes. Around what age was this?
That was when I was 19.
Sure.
So it was, fresh out of varsity, well, still in varsity, fresh out of high school. My dad and I had a very close relationship. The foundation that I started is named for him because he is late now, unfortunately.
Sure. Sorry about that.
Sure, that's incredible. What an amazing story, because I think from a young age, you're already learning resilience, you're already learning negotiation skills, you're already facing rejection, you're already learning how to turn it around. I think that's amazing. And of course, that's probably helped you in your entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. A lot of being an entrepreneur is learning to take the knocks. And because of that day, and I know it was just one day, but because of that day, I don't feel the knocks anymore.
Sure.
Yes.
When someone says something disparaging to me, it's like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
I'm just here because I need to make my bond payment. And if you stay focused on the end goal, it helps you be a lot more resilient.
Absolutely.
Sure. I think that's quite important. And okay, so I mean, we take it back in terms of the wedding business. How was that experience? How long did that run for?
So my wedding business was called Flavored by Jasmine. It was exciting. I had a few celebrity clients.
Oh, wow.
We did a New Year's Eve party for Julius Malema.
Oh, look at that.
We did Abigail Kubeka's 70th birthday.
That's amazing.
So there
She's
was
a legend.
She is, and I got to meet her, and I was so starstruck.
Yeah.
But we got to meet, quite a few nice people, because I've always been very good with marketing, so getting my name out there.
Okay.
It wasn't sustainable though for the long term, because there's so much competition in that space, and what
There's
they
quite a lot
do,
of competition.
they undercut each other with price.
Pricing.
Yes.
And I've never been one to play with price. I'm not going to compete on price. My USP is that I'm better than everyone else.
Okay.
My USPs are separate to just price point.
Yes.
So I couldn't stay in that industry too long, because everyone would be like, yeah, but I found it cheaper. Then go cheaper.
Exactly. No, 100%. But what are some of the biggest lessons that you would have taken out of that particular season?
Don't work with brides.
Really? Because you're working with people at their most special time,
Stressed.
but they are stressed and they're not quite themselves.
Absolutely. So, the birthday parties were always a great event to do. But when you were doing a wedding, and it is so true with weddings, everything is going to go wrong. There's always something that's going to go wrong, and your job as the planner is to mitigate that and make sure the bride does not see what goes wrong. They cannot see you sweat. But still, on top of that, people then are speaking to you in a very derogatory manner because they are at their most stressed.
Yes.
So I really did not enjoy dealing with stressed brides who are also watching their budget at the same time. You know, weddings are expensive.
Yes.
And if they come to you and they're like, I want a fountain, but I've got a tap budget, you know, it's not really working. What did they say? Champagne tastes with beer budget.
Beer budget, yes.
I swear every bride has a little bit of that. But it came in so handy for my own wedding. So my husband and I have been together for 18 years today. It's actually today.
Lovely.
But we've been married now for 3.
Okay.
And when I planned my own wedding, I still had all the contacts in the industry. So my entire wedding, including open bar and all the outfits, cost me 50,000 rand.
There's no ways. There's no ways.
Absolutely. Open bar.
That's such a blessing, eh?
For 50 people, because I just negotiated with everyone, and I was friends with a lot of people still as well. So I said, you know, come to my wedding, and in lieu of my gift, please provide me with XYZ.
Yes.
So it's, you know, you always need to look for a space for collaboration.
Yes. 100%.
Even if you are meeting someone in a checkout line at Pick and Pay, figure out what it is they do. How can you guys collaborate grow together? Because in South Africa, you can really, there is limitless potential for entrepreneurs in South Africa.
Yes.
And if we work together, instead of having a competitive mindset, if we work together, you can really grow to no bounds.
Yes, yes.
100%, because, you know, collaboration is king. And, you know, what we also experienced beforehand in a previous business we had in the clothing industry, it was very similar around brides.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll think, wedding industry is great to get into. People are always getting married. That's part of it, but then the other side is just dealing with the brides and dealing with
brides.
people where, you know, they're just not in such a good space, you know.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so what did you move into after
that? I moved because now I had the experience in events, so I moved into eventing and marketing.
Okay.
I started my own company called Paragon Promotions, which provided corporate events, and I did the launch of some of the biggest brands in the country.
Sure.
There was WeChat. We did the launch of WeChat in the
wow,
country.
Really?
I did the launch of Tonino Lamborghini.
Wow.
Energy drink in the country. I did the launch of Rolling Stones magazine in South Africa. A lot of the car brands as well used us, Subaru, VW commercial.
Sure.
So we worked with some really, that was just blessed, eh? I honestly don't know how I got into the spaces that I got.
Yeah.
And I sort of had this, not imposter syndrome, it was more like childhood syndrome. I felt I was too young because I was 23 at this time.
Sure.
23, turned over my first million, and I felt like some of these spaces are too big for me.
Yeah.
And that I'm just a little girl. What am I doing here? And it took a while for me to get over that. But I really have been so blessed that brands came to me. I never sold a day in my life.
Yes.
Because they just heard of the great. I'm a very big perfectionist. So they heard of how Tiffany runs events, and they would come to me, literally, can you do this for us? We did the Johannesburg International Motor Show.
Oh, wow.
We did Opi Kopi, you know.
Oh, goodness.
So
Those are huge events, lots of logistics.
Yes. And it really worked with me because my favorite thing is Excel. I am such an Excel nerd.
Yeah.
So I had, before all these automated tools existed like Monday.com, and, you know, we were sitting just as old school with Excel sheets and checklists.
Yeah.
And I really thrived in that space. I was the third biggest agency in the country.
Wow.
I have, in terms of market share.
Yes.
I literally was the third biggest, and it was just me, whereas all the other two were internationally owned.
Yes.
And they had massive boards, and, you know, and it was just me running my stuff. Well, not, I had staff members, but I mean as director.
Yes.
It was me.
Yes.
When I had my son, though, this was 9 years ago, I couldn't do the hours because it would
demanding.
be early morning.
Yeah.
And especially an event, you have to stay there till pack up.
Yes.
Sometimes that's 2 a.m.
Yes.
And that is not feasible with a young child. I was leaving home, he was asleep. I was coming back home, he was still asleep. I never saw him. I missed the first time he sat up. I missed the first time he rolled over.
Sure.
And I said, this isn't the kind of mother I want to be. You know, and I Googled part-time job, and this thing came up, swimming instructor. I did not know this is a job.
Okay.
Because when I learned to swim, my dad threw me in the pool and he said, kick, kick, kick. And you sank or you swam.
Yes.
And I called up this lady that advertised, and I went a few weekends and I just sort of watched her and saw what she did. And that's when I decided this was the space for me. And so 9 years in, I'm still in the, but what I've done is I've revolutionized the industry, not to sound, I don't want to sound cocky or anything.
No, go for it. This is a safe space.
There was, no, but really they treated adults like an afterthought. So everyone focuses on baby swim.
Yes.
They focus on children and they focus on coaching.
Yes.
But if you are an adult wanting to learn how to swim, you are an afterthought. No one is focusing on you. And adults were not finishing their course. They were not learning to swim. And I was like, what is happening? And I then went to a psychologist. I said, why do adults take longer to swim? I went to a personal trainer. I said, how can we push people in order to get them to swim faster? And I then developed this course where you learn to swim in 4 weeks, guaranteed, or your money back.
My goodness.
And I am the only swimming school in the world that has a money back guarantee.
Wow.
Because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
Yes.
I've taught over 8,000 people now in this course in the 9 years that I've been in the industry. And all of them, 100% success rate.
Wow.
Could swim by the end of 4 weeks.
Where are you based?
I'm in the south of Johannesburg, but I also have a branch that we've just acquired now in Roodepoort in the west.
Busy, eh?
Oh,
Yes.
lovely.
So we've got 3 branches, 2 in the south and 1 in Roodepoort. By the end of this year, we'll probably have 1 in every corner of the city.
Wow, look at that.
Wow, I
And it's
love
interesting
that.
because even myself, I've got friends, from our gym and adults.
Yeah.
And so many would say, I can't swim and so on. And I used to say to them, you're an adult. You shouldn't be using the word can't.
Yeah.
You can rather say, I'm not at a stage where I want to learn
Yes.
to do that yet.
Yes.
Or I'm not ready to commit
Yes.
to that process yet. But you can't say that you can't. I mean,
You'll be surprised. The fear with adults, you need to remember, there are 2 things that come with it. Firstly, your entire life, you have been told, don't go near the pool, you're going to drown.
okay.
So the fear is ingrained in your soul.
Yes.
Secondly, if you look at the history of our country, where they had used water to torture people of color, that is, there's epigenetics, fear that is
Yes.
carried through your cells.
Yes.
So we have generational fear that has been passed along.
Sure.
So not only do you have your own life experiences, you've now got this past remembered experiences from your ancestors that's also sitting in your veins. So their fear is tangible.
Wow.
Their fear is so real, which is why I needed a psychologist to help me build the course.
Psychologist.
Once we break through the fear, learning to swim is a breeze.
Yes.
Really?
It's so easy because you are an adult. It's very easy for you to move your legs and move your arms. But it's breaking through that fear that is the hardest part. And that is why adults are not progressing in other schools as fast as they do with me, because they are taught like children. Children don't have the same level of fear. Children don't have the same level of understanding, So you as an adult know intensely how dangerous water is. When you get in it, your fear is physical.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas with a child, they don't really know. They've sort of heard you shouldn't, but you're telling me to get in, I'm going to get in.
Yes.
You're an adult telling me
Yes.
what to do.
Yes.
That makes so much sense
Yeah.
because I would see them where part of what the instructors were communicating is, but look what the children are doing and just do that. But you'll see that that's not actually what's being translated. And then when they ask me, how did you get through this? I'd say, I don't know. I was a child.
Yeah. When you're a
I
child,
have no
it's easy.
idea.
When you're a child, you don't have that fear in you. It's very easy. When you're an adult, there is a huge mental block to overcome. And I've always said the most difficult people to teach how to swim are managers, because they also
really?
want to be in control.
Control.
When you are in the water, you have a complete lack of control. The water is in control. We just
Yes.
use the properties of water to move through it.
Yes.
But you're not going to change the property of water.
Yes.
You're not going to change the fact that if your ears are under, your legs are going to lift.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So as a child, when you get in, you're learning this is how water feels. As an adult, you've spent your whole day on land, your whole life on land. You know what gravity feels like. Once you get in the water, what is this buoyancy thing? Why are my legs lifting up? Why is it difficult to walk through water?
Sure.
They're not used to that. So that's why I also take it from a theory point of view. The way I teach adults is completely different. And that's why I say I've revolutionized the industry. Because I do not teach them like children at all. It's a complete different way of teaching. And that's why I've had the success I've had.
Would you say that all of us need to learn how to swim and can learn how to swim?
Not knowing how to swim is like not knowing how to tie your shoelaces. It is an essential life skill that will hold you back. You know, whether you're going to be a fish going on holiday swimming all the time is irrelevant. The point is you must know how. It's one of those basic things that you're supposed to learn as a child. And if you haven't learned it, if you as an adult didn't know how to tie your shoes, well, you're going to ask me now, do you think I need to learn how to tie my shoes?
Right.
You know, it's a life skill everyone must know how to do. And I forgot the second half of your question.
And so everybody can also
Everybody can.
Sure.
We currently are teaching a student, he's got deformities. Shame, he went to 12 different swim schools before he found me, and I agreed to teach him. They all turned him away because his feet are deformed. He's got club foot. He's missing some toes, and his hands are also, he's got the deformities in his hands as well, and his arms are shorter. 12 schools said no to him.
Sure.
When he came to me, I was like, sure, that's no problem. You've got a head, right? As long as you've got a head, you can swim. I've taught people with no legs, no arms. I've taught someone who had open heart surgery 6 weeks before he came to me.
Wow.
We've taught a 91-year-old gogo who'd never been in the pool before. We taught her, and all of them in 4 weeks.
That's amazing. I love that. Now, I know that your swim school also works together or is in support of the Amore Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Amore Foundation is a foundation I started when my father passed away. I realized I was going to be missing his vibe, his love. And I said, if that's what's lacking in the world, let me become that to others. And I started this foundation where we do once-in-a-lifetime events, and the aim is to spread joy. So we take an ice rink into Soweto, let them ice skate. You know, we have jumping castles, back-to-school parties, anything that's sort of fun that they would never get to experience in a regular township lifestyle, you know. And the swim school fees are what funds the Amore Foundation.
Amazing.
Because there's funding if you want to feed kids. There's funding if you want to educate them. If you want to let kids be kids, funding is a bit hard to come by.
Yeah.
I do have some friends, though, that I'll send a message and I say, hey, guys, I need this and that. And I do have friends that will support me and say, okay, I've got an extra. Here you go. But mostly it is funded through the swim school.
That is amazing. That is fantastic. Sure. I love that. And it's spreading peace. It's spreading joy and just allowing people to be children again, which I think is lost.
Absolutely. So Amore actually means love in French. My dad's name was Dennis, but they called him Amore. And I always used to say he's a man so loving, they literally called him love.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I was naming my foundation, I was like, not only is it named after him, but it speaks to what the foundation is about.
Yes.
It's the Love Foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
And I wanted to check as well. I mean, from what I'd seen also, you had also entered into the beauty space and pageants. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well?
So when I developed stage fright, I went to George, did the radio show thing, came back, did stand-up comedy. That was a nice way to get back onto stage as well. But it's easier to be the clown, you know. Then as part of that journey, I entered the pageant to get over the stage fright once and for all. I thought a pageant was walking on a stage, on a ramp, and answering questions, world peace. But it actually was so much more. It was a transformative journey. And I can honestly say that my husband actually said he likes to see this grown-up version of me.
Oh, wow.
Because that's what happened. It refined me. And I actually came up with this quote that says, and now I shine like the most brilliant diamond because I too was formed under pressure.
Oh,
wow.
And I think that wraps up my journey so perfectly.
Wow. Wow. I love that. And now you're part of the alumni committee. Am I correct?
I am the chairwoman of the alumni committee.
that.
So it's called the Honor Society. Everyone who has been a contestant of the Supreme Queen Global Earth Africa pageant or the affiliate pageants as part of this Honor Society, and we support each other. We do events as well where we get together. We're just all friends. We
Yes.
literally still have a WhatsApp group with all the semi-finalists from 2023,
Wow.
which was my year. And we just check in. Hey guys, happy Thursday. We send memes, We've grown our friend group, but also whenever you need something, we've got friends.
Because now it's a network.
Yes, now it's a network. I mean, one of my sisters, Yvette Miller, she's doing Mrs. SA this year, and she reached out to me yesterday. She's like, one of the ladies from Mrs. SA got a table sponsored for charity. Would you like it for your charity? Because now I came top of mind because I'm her network.
Yes.
Even though she's in a completely different pageant now,
Yeah.
her network and her sisterhood is still with SQ.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Gosh, you're just spreading so much positivity. It's literally oozing from you, which I think
Thank
is
you.
amazing. With all these things that you have done, where do you see the future for yourself?
I really do want to be the person you think of when you think swimming.
Okay.
So anytime someone says, hey, my child needs to go for lessons, Tiffany.
Okay.
And with that, I want to have, I've said earlier that I'm going to have by the end of this year a branch in every corner of the city, but we are going to move nationwide because
Lovely.
I have clients who've driven from KZN. Kid you not. They drive through on a Friday night, do a Friday night lesson, do a Saturday morning lesson, and drive back on a Saturday.
Amazing.
And I have clients currently that are driving from Mpumalanga. I wouldn't want them to have to drive that far in order to gain access.
Yeah.
So I want to have pools, but it's obviously going to have to be franchises.
Yes.
Because I am only one person.
Yes.
But I want to have franchises in all these areas so that everyone can have the same kind of access to the things we have in Joburg. I mean, Johannesburg has amazing stuff. And it's no doubt with the swimming, they've got the best swim school here.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure in the smaller areas that they've also got access to quality lessons.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that's become clear, I can see why you multi-award winning in your area. And just as we're looking to close in terms of looking to encourage the entrepreneurs who watch on this channel, what words can you perhaps give them to encourage them with the journey that they're on?
Well, if you're looking to start out in entrepreneurship, the first thing I would say is expect to be broke for the first 6 months. Maybe even longer, but definitely the first 6 months. And if you can learn to live in lower means, you're going to be a success. Because the problem most entrepreneurs have is money flow, cash flow. Money comes in and they want to have flashy cars. They want to have nice watches. They want to have fancy jewelry, fancy holidays. What you need to learn is how to prioritize the long term.
Yes.
Cut off your instant gratification. Prioritize the long term. And then in 10, 20 years, you can then have the fancy houses and the cars, but in a sustainable way without risk of you losing it. What's the point of having a nice car, but the bank owns it and you have one bad month and your car is gone?
Yeah.
So my words are really that you learn how to be smart with your money, live below your means, well below your means, so that in the long term, you get to reap the benefits. And also just never be afraid of a no. A no is not personal.
Okay.
They don't know you. The person you're speaking to doesn't know you. It is not personal. A no is a not yet to them. They are saying no to the opportunity, not to you. And it's their loss.
Yeah.
If they're saying no to the opportunity, actually, you should feel sorry for them. Oh, no, really? You're going to miss out. Poor you.
Yeah.
And also, I'm very arrogant. And I think that has helped me a lot in my entrepreneurial journey. If you aren't your biggest cheerleader, then who? So you have to clap for yourself very loudly. Wake up every day, high five yourself in the mirror. Say, I'm the boss. I am the boss, babe. I've got this. I have the best product out there. Because if you believe you have the best product, it's going to carry through to your platform. So everyone who comes in touch with it is going to say, this is the best product. And then B, even if people are saying no, as I said, you're like, I've got the best product. Are you sure it's a no? It's going to help you push harder. Like, are you sure you want to say no to this?
Okay.
Oh gosh, I love that. And such wise words of wisdom as well. Papa Biz, gosh, I've gotten such great nuggets from you. What have been your biggest takeaways?
I'm a person I believe in process. And what I've heard from your story is it reminds me of that in terms of, we're all human beings, especially as adults. We go through different experiences where now they elicit fear.
Yeah.
And fear in different areas. And sometimes we can get lost there. But what I've seen from you, and I'm taking note of, is you can feel the fear, acknowledge that fear, but then engage in a process to get over that fear, which is what I've seen in your story and your journey. And it's such a wonderful reminder about that for all of us, because we all have those type of areas as we're growing up. And at some point, look, we are adults. We can engage in a process to get over that fear. And then, of course, like what I really enjoy, like with your school, sometimes you got to put in some effort to find where the correct process will be. But don't let that fear own you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Tiffany, if somebody's watching this and they're thinking to themselves, I've got a child that needs swimming lessons, or I am the adult that Tiffany's talking about that actually wants to learn how to swim, even though it's later in life, how do they get in touch with you?
On all the social media platforms, you'll find at Splash Aquademy. So Aquademy is spelled like aqua, A-Q-U-A.
Okay.
So we have at Splash Aquademy, our website also, splashacademy.co.za, or they can WhatsApp us, 078 917 9997.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think for me, the biggest takeaway has been just listening and learning from your ability to start over. Finding spaces where you can be really, really good, for example, the wedding planning, and then going into events management, etc. And then even saying, actually, you know what, these are all successful businesses in their own right, but maybe life decides to take a different turn, or your own personal circumstances change, and you say, I actually want to now do something different that's going to accommodate the stage in life that I am at, not being afraid to start over again, even though what you were doing is successful, starting from scratch and building something successful that actually fits with your life right now. And I think that has been such a big takeaway, because in life we go through different seasons. We grow older, our interests change, circumstances change, the economy changes, and that ability to be agile, I think I've really taken away from your story. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Monetizers, that brings us to the end of yet another incredible podcast conversation. Tiffany Miguel is a phenomenal entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and is somebody that is oozing with, lots of positivity. Please do find her on social media. Connect, even if it isn't for the swimming element of things. I think just being in contact with people that motivate you, that inspire you, that uplift you is so important in the entrepreneurial journey. We'll definitely link down below all the details of her business, as well as her own personal social media account, so that you can follow her. That brings us to the end of this podcast conversation. We will see you in our next episode.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.